Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Rostermania is well underway, and one of the big questions that remains is, where is Dashy potentially going to go if indeed there is some changes within the OpTic Texas camp, as there appears to be as it stands. Crowd up from the Atlanta FaZe side has outright denied any possibility of any changes within the FaZe team, denying FaZe Dashy becoming a thing, but also denying Cellium potentially going to OpTic as well. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Quick update as well, because no update right now as it stands on any developments from the London land side. We know that Major 4 was meant to be in New York later this season, but it's not going to be the case anymore. Florida were a consideration. They have apparently denied that now, and then, well, maybe London is an option as well, which would be absolutely beautiful, but we shall stay tuned for that one. Quick note as well on Jimbo, free agent and challenges. There's Rostermania everywhere right now, not just in the professional side of things. And quick update as well on the latest update, I believe, that's come to the game. There are some changes to the spawns and also to certain elements of the game that have kind of been overshadowed over the last few days. Arcitys talks about Zarqwa Hydroelectric being an amazing map, and you know, some agree with this one, some certainly do not agree with this one. And even here, as you guys can see on Fortress, there is always some questionable things happening here on Fortress. We've got the red team here, we've got, you know, number 6 just spawns right on the new hill for some reason. Very interesting situation there. But yeah, the new updates always seem to mess a little bit with the spawns. Things always seem to be changing around to a certain extent, and yeah, some pros are happy with it, some pros are probably not, but I know that many are thinking, oh well, as soon as the season starts up again back in January, it's going to be a rather different feel to the game. And I do wonder how much practice the teams have been getting, if any, over the last few days, largely because many of these teams are making changes, and there isn't realistically that much time for them to figure things out. The season starts again very shortly at the start of January. There's only a few days after Christmas to get everything sorted in roster size, and maybe many of those teams, the 5-team Rostermania we discussed, won't happen. I think LAG are still making a move, pretty sure London are still making a move, but in terms of OpTic and Seattle and the other teams as well that might have been involved in that further conversation are very much up in the air as it stands. Even Tempe thought it was pretty funny at TJ Halley on Hydro, so I guess he attended some sort of a grave yesterday. Thought this is pretty funny, to be fair. And speaking of Clay, the teammate of course TJ and Tempe are the Vegas Legion, thought he was talking about the cards right here, but no one seemingly has got any of the soloing cards that Clay put together over the last year or so. Now, one question on the OpTic side that I have is, if Dashy is indeed a free agent and is going somewhere else, could they potentially make a trade there? Now, we believe that it's not going to happen with LAG. We think it's not going to happen with Seattle. Is there any world it happens with a team like Rokkr, for example, and they can maybe get Dashy and then they can send Cammy the other way? I don't know. There's some options I'm sure they're considering, but as I said, there isn't really that much time to get this sorted out, especially with the holidays as it currently stands. Now, as we talked about, of course, earlier today, Dashy doing this tweet saying goodbye to Formal. It seems so unlikely to me that he's saying this, and indeed it's all just bait. They're all just trolling around, and it's all good. OpTic are absolutely fine, no problems there internally. And even though it seemed to many of us right before the season even began that if anything went wrong with this team, I mean, Aches made a pretty Nostradamus prediction right on the flank at the time, and he said, well look, OpTic running it back is a bad idea. As soon as they get Neslowed by Florida at the first event, they are chalked. Guess what happens? They come to the first event, they beat Florida game 5 round 11 in the first series, they then get 2-3-5 Neslowed by Florida in the second series they played, drop out of the tournament, and then seemingly are making changes. Like, I just doubt, I don't really understand why they would do this and all these tweets and stuff if they're indeed running it back anyway, and if they do again, it's surely an absolute disaster class waiting to happen for the second time in a matter of months. So the question was then raised, if Dashy is indeed gone, then what are they going to do OpTic from an AR side? There was a weird rumor that was going around about the possibility of Cellium, whether that was ever a possibility, but it seems like a lot of the rumors that were coming out were more like OpTic wanted X player rather than X player or Y team that kind of X player actually plays for at the moment is interested at all in making that happen. So that seems to be where a lot of this stuff had happened, because we saw this in Ronnie as well, suggesting that he was told about Cellium, and it seemed like based on what Zuma was saying that OpTic may have said like, hey Cell, do you want to come and play for us? And FaZe were like, no, or Cellium was like, no, or whatever the case might be, and therefore that's not at all happening. And Crowder basically confirmed this on stream last night and was talking about this possibility of FaZe making a change, and he's just outright denied it. Says that, yeah, the team's not making a move, there's no Cellium going anywhere, there's no FaZe Dashy becoming a thing anytime soon, and this team is going to run it back for the upcoming, well, the rest of the season.
Yeah, going. This Crown over here is in a chopper.
Those guys. Yeah, I just did 1,200 damage to them.
Alright, let's go, boys.
What are the chances
Yeah,
Dashy
I
to
wasn't
FaZe
very
this season?
locked
No,
in right
we're not
now.
making
It's
a
kind of
roster change.
salty, but I gotta regain. I gotta regain here.
Yeah, behind you guys,
Baby.
FaZe is not planning on making any roster changes. To the left.
Now, I think this is a good decision to run it back for FaZe. I don't see why they would change. They came third. First event with Slasher in the team. There's things to work on. We talked about last night, right? The fact that, you know, Cellium, is he really playing that well? Is he playing for the team quite as well as he should do, right? Is his playstyle best aligned with how that team needs to get their best results? Or is there other things they've got to think about? But regardless, the team's incredibly talented. They should well put it together. Be surprised if that team of 4 doesn't win an event this season. So, you know, why would they make a change? I'm sure they want to run it back, at least for now. And if they still have poor performances for the rest of the year, then maybe something gives there. But nonetheless, I mean, we talked in the off-season about the possibility of, you know, FaZe Dashy, because when Dashy was getting dropped from OpTic for the first time, people thought, oh yeah, FaZe are going to snap him up, because at that time they didn't have a slasher. They only had, you know, Arcitys was more than likely going to be gone, it felt like at that time. So it felt like maybe Dashy to that FaZe team with Cellium, Simp and aBeZy was the way to go. Now, they denied that any of this was actually happening. After Rostermania concluded, they said, yeah, we were never even considering Dashy. We wanted Shotzzy, right? I'm pretty sure they either said that or implied it, and we believe that, you know, Shotzzy was considering that move to FaZe before Scump then decided to not retire and run it back for one more year, which maybe was a mistake based on what is happening at the moment. But yeah, still, FaZe Dashy was never a consideration FaZe had at the time, and seemingly even now he's also not a consideration, which you can understand given where their team currently lies. This was one of the rumors going around in the offseason that, well, you know, maybe Dashy could step into that FaZe team. Turns out not going to be the case. But this also means, of course, that Cellium isn't going the other way potentially to OpTic, because that is, I think, what OpTic have to hope for now. If they are getting rid of Dashy, as they probably are, because I just can't see how chemistry-wise that can ever work out ever again, if indeed he does make the return, they've probably got to hope that they can trade Dashy somewhere and get someone else in replacement for him. We thought maybe, is there a world in which, you know, Pred can go to OpTic, Dashy could go the other way, they upgrade their firepower, they lose firepower in other centers, maybe there's a world in which they can make that work out. Probably not. Same story with Los Angeles Guerrillas, maybe Arcitys comes through, Dashy goes the other way. If that's not the case, how many options are there remaining? There's only a couple of teams, maybe even a team like Boston for Methods, or maybe a team like, you know, Minnesota Rokkr, potentially for an attach, or a Cammy, just because they were 2 players that were linked to OpTic in the first place. And maybe Rokkr, after a poor first event, they think, you know what, we can get Dashy as a pure talent, maybe it's worth a punt, and maybe OpTic feel like the other way around. That's one of the only options that I feel like is left on the table here, just because it now seems like Crowd is practically confirmed. There's no OpTic Cellium, there's no FaZe Dashy, so that kind of narrows the possibilities again for OpTic and raises the question, why did they, you know, try and do what they did now and not just try and make these changes before the season began? Because they could have had Hydra, they could have had Cammy, they probably could have had Attach, they could have made some serious moves in the off-season when everyone was free and open for acquisition, and now they're trying to cram everything in before the new year, where there really isn't that much time to get things sorted, and other teams are pulling further ahead with all the practice they're getting, while the other teams are scrambling to make their roster changes. So very much interested your thoughts in the comment section below. Is this the right thing to do from the OpTic side? Is it the right thing to do from FaZe's side? Should they consider any moves? Or is it more just a personality, a playstyle thing that they have to try and change and adopt to ensure that Cellium is maximally helping their team, well, achieve the highest successes? Now, talking of Cellium, actually, he was on the list of the highest rated players for the stage. These are the cards that Lineman put together. Absolutely beautiful stuff. And here we go. So the number 1 rated was Kismet, 99 overall. This guy was out of control. And a lot of this comes from, so the numbers are derived from some sort of algorithm that doesn't just look at KDs, but it looks at loads of different statistics. So, you know, heal time, damage, assists, all this type of stuff comes together to form a number. And then that number that the calculation comes up with gets a plus or minus based on the, effectively the record of the team. So New York Southerners went 9-3 overall record. So all their numbers for their team gets a +6 added to it because of their results. So that's basically the way these numbers work. So Kismet was either getting to 99 or he was just over 100 and then lied up to nerf him down to 99. Scrappy on a 96, then Pred, Hydra, Inside as well on a great stage, especially, I mean, yeah, deaths per 10 minutes in hardpoints really. Like, if you look at Purple is like basically best in the world of that particular characteristic, or right in the very top percentile. And then Sib is here as well. It's actually very interesting to look at this, comparing what's going on with Seattle, like within their camp, let's just say, because you've got Pred and Sib here in the top here. And then if you look at the bottom 10, you've got Mack and Accuracy, which is understandable, but it's just kind of funny that of all the players in the league, that in the top 10, you've got Simp and Pred, and in the bottom 10, you've got Mack and Accuracy. Now, okay, lowest 10 rated players, people always say, oh, you know, it's not right, you know, trashing these guys. And obviously, there's some small sample sizes that are in effect here, but, yeah, nonetheless, it's obviously not been a great stage for many of these teams. So, I mean, look, Los Angeles Guerrillas, first of all, it's not pretty, I've got to say. They've got two of the lowest rated players in Spart and Neptune, and Huke is not too much higher above that. Interesting to me is Los Angeles Thieves, because none of their players in the top 10 at all. I think maybe Drazah was not too far away from the top 10, but he still didn't perform great. And Octane and Kenny down there again. I mean, Kenny's number's pretty terrible. Now, in fairness, this is always a thing with Kenny and Octane. They generally start off a bit slow, and they heat up towards the end of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if Kenny's one of the better players in the game towards the end of the year. It seems always to happen. And Los Angeles Thieves doing okay, despite these poor performances from Octane and Kenny as it stands. So if they can turn it around, as I think they will, then at the end of the year, they'll get better and better. They're still winning games, Thieves, by getting outslayed in hard points. So they've got to turn that around, though, and it is a key storyline to keep your eyes on. 3 of the Mutineers guys here as well. Major Maniac hasn't really been that impressive to me outside of a couple of online games. And it's interesting that out of the bottom 10 players, there's only 4 teams represented here, whereas in the top 10, there's many more teams than that. Toronto, you know, even Afro is here as well. London in a seam, and then, of course, FaZe from Cellium. So I wonder how different this will look next time around, and whether any of these players might be playing for a different team next time around as well, with Rostermania still ongoing into Christmas. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. As I said earlier today, tomorrow, not exactly sure what's going to happen in terms of videos. I'll probably still do one on this channel some way or another, whether it's something pre-recorded or that I do later today, or whether it's based on what actually might happen overnight, and if there's absolute madness that happens on Christmas Eve going into Christmas Day, we shall see. But nonetheless, hope you all have a great time, have a great holiday if you celebrate it, and we will catch up very soon indeed on the latest updates as well, and all the drama that's happened in the last few days. The most like chaotic I've ever seen this time of year in the Call of Duty community. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.